we get started with today's episode, I would like to quickly read you our podcast disclaimer. This podcast is for educational purposes only, and it is not to substitute for professional care by a doctor or other qualified medical professional. You should always speak with your physician or other healthcare professionals before doing any fasting, changing your diet in any way, taking or adjusting any medications or supplements, or adopting any treatment plan for a health problem. The use of any other products or services purchased by you as a result of this podcast does not create a healthcare provider-patient relationship between you and any of the experts affiliated with this podcast. Any information and statements regarding dietary supplements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. All right, and now we'll get started with today's episode. Hi everyone, it's Megan Ramos here with another episode of the Fasting Method Podcast. Today's show is a fasting Q&A where I answer your questions. I do want to thank everybody for being patient as we work our way through the archive of questions. We will let you know when we're accepting new questions soon, so stay tuned. The first question for today asks, if it's better to have some fat and extend the fast, or if you should just stop your fast and eat a meal. In my opinion, it's better to have a little bit of fat and extend your fast. If you have a little bit of fat and it gives you a great boost and you get in another 12, 18, 24 hours of fasting, or sometimes even multi-days, you're much better off doing the fast and having a bit of fat. Some fats are burned very quickly by the body, and you easily transition back into a fasted state. An example would be something like MCT oil, which is essentially just liquid coconut oil. When you consume a tablespoon of this fat, you feel really good, literally within a matter of minutes. It's a great energy booster. And you're back in a fast state typically within an hour. Now, if you were to have a meal and then resume a fast, you would not be in a fasted state for several hours because you would be burning off that meal for that amount of time. So it's better to use a smart fat like coconut oil or MCT oil as a boost to get you through a fast than it is to have that meal. And I'll tell you, I've had many people who are doing some extended fasts, and a little bit of fat on day 3 helps them get to day 5. So sure, technically they might be out of the fast for a teeny bit of time on that day 3 when they have the fat, but they're getting a tremendous amount of deep healing. But they're getting back into that fast quickly. Their insulin didn't even go up, so it doesn't even need to come back down. And they're right into the swing of things with autophagy in literally a matter of minutes, not hours or days in some cases. So it is wise to use a fasting aid if you do need one. Now, for this type of boost, it is better to have some fat than anything else. And when it does come to fats, they're not all created equally. So I really do love the good coconut fats, especially the MCT oil. You want to make sure you're getting a high quality MCT oil. So organic, cold pressed. There's different types of MCT oil as well. I like a good C8 or the C8, C10 combo oil. And I just get mine from Amazon. It's great. I actually take quite a bit of it during pregnancy as well because it's such a great fat for my baby's development. And it helps keep my mind a little bit more sharp with all the pregnancy brain fog that can set in. Now, if you're not a fan or these types of fats do cause some gastric distress, then you could absolutely have something like grass-fed butter or ghee. Those would be perfectly fine things to have. And then from butter and ghee, I would transition into something like a really good quality olive oil, for example. I would try to eliminate dairy sources of fat as a tool to help you extend your fast. So things like heavy cream, for example, I wouldn't lean into. Now, I know that things like butter and ghee do often come from cows or goats, and that's fine. Butter and ghee are very different in terms of composition compared to something like heavy cream. So I would try to bench those particular fats during your fast, leave the cream, leave the other dairy sources, lean into the butter or ghee if you need it instead. The second question is along similar lines. This person is saying, I feel like I need to use more fasting aids if I exercise on fasting days. Should I just stop exercising on my fasting days? And the answer is no. I think you should continue to exercise on your fasting days so long as you feel well. Exercising on fasting days can definitely enhance your fat burning. It can also, in general, enhance the effectiveness of a fast. And so many of the things that we're looking to achieve with our fasting, such as improved glucose metabolism or enhancing autophagy. So I'm a big proponent of exercising on fasting days. Now, if you do need to have more fasting aids afterwards, that's okay. It is perfectly fine to have them and still do your exercise. I think there are more physiological benefits and deeper states of certain physiological conditions like autophagy reach when you're exercising and fasting at the same time. So even if you are to have a bit of fasting aids and have something like bone broth that does halt autophagy for a short period of time, you've sort of turbocharged the autophagy you're experiencing earlier in the day when you're fasting and exercising. So slowing it down a bit or being out of the state of autophagy for a short period of time later in the day is not necessarily that problematic. I would say the benefits of the deeper, more efficient state earlier on are going to benefit you more than just trying to keep it consistent throughout the day. Likewise, with the improvement in insulin sensitivity and glucose metabolism, if you did have to have a couple of extra fasting aids later on in the day, so long as you are being mindful about the quantity and the quality of the fasting aids that you're having, then I do think you're getting more bang for your buck exercising and experiencing those enhanced benefits in a fasted state, even if you're using some of these tools later on to support you. And it's important to understand that exercise doesn't have to look like a CrossFit experience. Even doing something as simple as, 15 to 30 minutes of walking every day has incredible health benefits. So you don't need fancy equipment, a fancy gym, a trainer, or anything like that. You can just simply go walking in your neighborhood or at home on a treadmill and experience great benefits as well. The third question asks if matcha tea breaks a fast. This person says it just seems too creamy. Well, matcha tea, for those of you who don't know, is a form of Japanese green tea that comes in a bright green powder composition. So it's not your traditional tea leaves or tea bags full of tea leaves that you would make a tea out of. So not like a jasmine green tea, for example. It is a powdered tea, and people will sometimes use like a whisk and whisk the powder into water. And it is a bit of a paste-like at first, but of course you do dilute it with a lot of water. And it is this very bright green color. It looks exceptionally healthy, and it really is exceptionally healthy. Matcha has a slow release form of caffeine in it, which can help avoid the jitters and feeling anxious or that adrenaline rush that sometimes people can experience through consuming something like coffee, that you get a big hit of caffeine at one time. So matcha is a really great alternative. It's also full of really wonderful antioxidants as well. So lots of good health benefits. But it does feel a little bit creamy. It definitely does not feel like flavored water, but it is not creamy. It is not a fat. It is not a protein. It is just a form of tea. So it's perfectly fine to have on your fasting day. It doesn't break a fast. If you are struggling with caffeine or seeing a glucose response to caffeine from your coffee or say black tea that you might have in the morning, then giving matcha tea is definitely worth a shot. Matcha tea is something that I would occasionally consume prior to pregnancy. I'm not drinking it during pregnancy. I'm really sort of keeping my consumption to mostly water and a couple of pregnancy herbal teas, and that's about it. But matcha tea does have some great health benefits. It's not my favorite cup of tea. Those of you who know me know that jasmine green tea is where my heart belongs. But matcha tea does have some really cool health benefits, and I'll have a glass or two a week to just help get some of those benefits. And I am a bit sensitive to caffeine, and I do have cardiac arrhythmia, so that can leave me feeling unwell if I'm to try something like coffee. That's why I don't drink coffee. For those of you who are always emailing in asking why, it just makes me feel jittery when I do have this arrhythmia. So matcha tea gives me a good boost of caffeine on those sleepy days without the jitteriness or making my arrhythmia active. So I really do enjoy those aspects of it. The fourth question asks, during a woman's lifespan, what is the most difficult time to fast and lose weight? So throughout a woman's lifespan, probably the most difficult time for a woman to fast is if she is cycling and has PCOS issues. So a cycling woman with PCOS in the second half of the cycle will have a lot of side effects of PMS. They will really struggle quite a lot with insulin resistance at that time, be very prone to weight gain, and they will have some intense cravings that they have to overcome as well. It can be a really challenging time. So when you are cycling, if you do have PCOS, that second half of the cycle is probably the most challenging time in a woman's lifespan. Now, with that being said, this is usually easily course corrected within about 3 to 4 months. I mean, we're talking about years worth of PMS symptoms just being a thing of the past, years worth of crazy cravings also being a thing of the past. So there's a lot we can do with fasting and nutrition to help the recovery of the PCOS woman really quickly. So if you are in this boat, don't lose faith. And I mean, we're here to help support you at the fasting method, figure out what it is that you might need to do specifically to get through this time. Now, what is the most difficult time to lose weight? This is a different answer. Typically when we're younger and we're cycling and, we can still lose weight a bit easier, even with the PCOS. But the most challenging time during a woman's lifespan to lose body fat is actually during perimenopause. During perimenopause, we see our progesterone levels start to decline. Now, progesterone levels do typically start to decline once we're in our 30s. During perimenopause, we do see more of a drastic decline in our levels, and this can create hormone imbalances, specifically between progesterone and estrogen, specifically estradiol, and we can sometimes get into the state of estrogen dominance. When we have estrogen dominance, it promotes the development of insulin resistance. It causes fat trapping. It makes us feel awful. It prevents us from losing weight around our tummies, hips, thighs, tricep area, all of these places where most women are trying to lose weight. So this is definitely the most challenging time. At the fasting method, we do have unique fasting and nutritional strategies that we use, but we also collaborate with other experts to help this group of women out. And actually, this week, on October the 19th at 2 p.m. Eastern, we have one of our experts, Ilana Bleeman. She is a hormone expert specifically for both women and men. She does a ton of work with women who are struggling with these hormonal imbalances during perimenopause. So she's actually doing a webinar about perimenopause in our community on October 19th. It is included in everyone's membership to the community or coaching subscriptions. So check it out. If you can't make it at 2 p.m. Eastern, it is recorded. Members will be able to view it later on, members and coaching clients. So it is included, everyone. When you log into thefastingmethod.com, and you go to your menu, go down to calendar bookings, you'll be able to see it on the schedule for Thursday, October the 19th. Now, Ilana, she's been a guest before. She is unarguably our most requested guest. She's actually joining our team. She's going to be doing these monthly webinars for our community and coaching clients. And we actually asked her to kick it off with perimenopause because it's something women need more attention when it comes to perimenopause. They need more education and resources and tools because we largely have to be our own advocates at this stage. I know I'll definitely be tuning in to learn as much as I can from Ilana. Perimenopause is a little bit off time-wise for me, but I want to learn as much as I can because it is a really challenging time, and fasting and nutrition alone just usually are not enough. And I do disagree with some of my other fasting colleagues outside of the fasting method that during this particular time, women shouldn't really fast or should only do time-restricted eating because it's too much stress on the body. I don't agree with that at all. I've seen fasting and therapeutic fasting and nutrition really help out a lot of these women and help aid to correct a lot of these hormonal imbalances. But some additional guidance and supplementation can really make a big difference. So you won't want to miss Ilana's webinar on the 19th. For those of you who might be new, you do receive 50% off your first month subscription to our Fasting Method community. The next question says, should I fast on Halloween? This holiday has me feeling really nervous. This is very common. When someone has a holiday or an event where they know there's going to be a lot of food temptations, they often think that it can go extremely bad. So instead, they try to be extreme in the opposite direction, and they will want to do something like do a fast or even sometimes do an extended fast, like 3 days or 5 days. And I don't think countering the action in the extreme is a good response. I've usually seen it have the opposite effect. So if you're worried about getting into all those Halloween treats and you think that, no, I'm going to do like a 48-hour fast and that way I'll be in a fast, people are more likely to end up diving into those Halloween treats. What I prefer to have our community members and my coaching clients do is a nutritional strategy where they will maybe fat fast or they'll just pick up some foods to create meals that they really love. So for us at our household, we don't give out Halloween treats on Halloween. We do have trick-or-treaters and we give them treats, but not candy or chips or anything like that. We get cool snap bracelets. We give out cool sunglasses, fidget spinners, bubbles, non-toxic tattoos. There's all kinds of great things that you can find and tons of inspiration online. So we don't have any food to give out, then that way we can't dive into it. But in my household growing up, there was a certain dinner time ritual on Halloween. And this is something I think about almost every year. It was like a deeply ingrained ritual in our household. And these are not foods that are part of my current diet right now. So I will plan to make something special for my husband and I that is reminiscent of this particular indulgent meal that we would have. So we'll make something fun like a matcha or like a almond flour pizza. Things we don't usually do throughout the rest of the year, we will make. Or there's a company that I think is Cabela's. They have like a keto pizza. I prefer to make my own with almond flour. Diet Doctor's got some great recipes for almond flour pizza crusts or for pizzas, but we experiment every year with just trying a different approach. I mean, we maybe do this max twice a year. It's not something common, but it is fun and it gives us a project to work on and to work on together in the kitchen. And it is sort of reminiscent of those special meals that we had growing up without me just saying, oh, to heck with it. Every year I'm going to indulge in this particular food. I can create a healthier ritual around food during this particular holiday. So that's what we do. And that's what I've elected to do. And by doing that, I haven't fallen into any of the Halloween pitfalls. Now, I'm like so many of you, I thought that, okay, I would rather just fast, right? Just be in a deep state of fat burning, have my insulin down, the insulin beast under control, and I will be immune to hunger and temptation. That's not always the case. And that often led me to fall into some of those mini chip bags. And I realized that, okay, I need to come up with a different strategy. Like number one, we don't give out those things. They're not in the house. So we eliminate that. Number two, I need to set myself up for success. And this holiday or holidays that really focus around foods, it's better to set yourself up for success with alternative foods. So, we'll have our matcha this year if we are not having a baby on Halloween. Halloween is crunch time for us. We will be on hourly baby watch from then on out until he arrives. So maybe different plans, maybe no matcha in our future this year, but we make a fun new ritual for ourselves. So just something for you to think about. But I wouldn't recommend fasting, fat fasting, sure, or just planning an indulgent meal with foods that reflect your current way of eating. Go splurge on that steak, get that great piece of fish, spend extra time cooking that special Brussels sprout recipe. Really do enjoy. And if you enjoy, you're not going to feel like you're missing out. Question number 6, do you have to have bacon on a fat fast? And the answer is absolutely not. When we talk about how fat fasting began at the fasting method, Patient Ground Zero did have bacon and eggs. That was his fat fast. That was all that he ate. Patient Ground Zero. There's a lot of people who just don't like bacon, who don't digest it well, who don't eat it for religious reasons or spiritual reasons, or don't have access to sort of unique bacon that is very healthy. So it ends up not necessarily being the most nutrient-dense food. So you do not need to have it. You can have it if you want it, but you do not need to have it during a fat fast. You could have salmon, you could have chicken wings, you could have a great ribeye. And if you are more plant-based, then of course, like the great coconut fats, for example, are wonderful to have. But you absolutely do not need to have bacon during your fat fast. I actually saw this online too. The TFM team seems really into bacon. I have a soft spot for my local bacon from avocado-fed pigs. That's very different than a lot of other bacon sources. I recently talked about this on one of last week's bite-size episodes, but not all bacon is created equally either. So fat fasting is about picking a few fatty foods or a couple fatty meals that you really enjoy. Don't force yourself to eat something that you don't really enjoy, or the fat fasting is not going to work. And of course, quality trumps all. And if you don't have access to good quality bacon, then you're probably better off selecting something else like wild salmon, for example. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining me for this week's Q&A episode. We'll be back soon with another. Happy fasting, everyone.